will have at least access to this and some additional information. So you may be getting a message that's just letting you know that this will be recording. I just wanted to let you know. Let's see. So we're really excited to be able to meet with you virtually today and want to provide you with an opportunity to learn more about the Biomedical Engineering Department here at Cal Poly and learn about what makes our program so special. So here is the timeline of our event today. And we're going to try to stick as closely as possible to the schedule. And I wanted you to have an idea of what we're going to cover and the format. So at the beginning, we're going to have a brief introduction by myself. And then at around 12:45, you'll hear about curriculum and concentrations from Dr. Kristin Cardinal. We'll also leave a little time in there for questions. And then after that, you'll have an opportunity to connect with current students. So we have 5 students who will be forming a panel here, and you can ask them questions about the department and life here at Cal Poly. And then finally, at the very end, at around 1:30, we'll have time for general questions. And we'll be doing that by dividing everyone out into smaller breakout rooms so you can meet our faculty and some of our students who are here today and ask your questions. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put your questions into the chat. As we go through the different sections, we'll read your questions out loud and answer them. And this will enable us to have a smoother flow. And also for those of you who may be a little shy to ask questions in front of a new group of people, you may find it easier to ask your questions in the chat. Okay. So now you all obviously chose biomedical engineering as your major, which is otherwise you wouldn't be here today. But what you might not realize is that biomedical engineering is an interdisciplinary field where you use engineering principles from areas such as mechanical, electrical, computer, and material science, just name a few, combined with the knowledge of math, biology, and chemistry to create new technology to improve the delivery of healthcare and also address real-world biomedical problems. So biomedical engineers work in a huge range of different areas. So that can include working on medical devices like stents and pacemakers, developing cell and biologic therapies, improving the delivery of healthcare, and early detection and diagnosis of diseases, just to name a few. Here on campus, we also work in a wide range of areas. For example, you could be growing tissue-engineered blood vessels. You could be testing cerebral aneurysm devices, building a prosthetic for a wounded veteran, or studying the mechanics of knee joint osteoarthritis. So our students are known for being day one ready engineers, and that's due to all of the hands-on learning opportunities we have here at Cal Poly. So we have great partnerships with industry and great relationships with our alumni, and we all work together to provide comprehensive experiences through our classes, laboratories, project opportunities, and internships. So you can see the real-world impact from working in the biomedical field and how your efforts can make a difference in the world. So now I want to tell you a little bit more in detail about our department. So we're a small department. We have approximately 460 students in the entire department. 401 of those are undergraduates and 59 of those are graduate students. We have 11 tenure-track faculty, 1 full-time lecturer, 5 part-time lecturers, and 3 staff members. So here's a quick picture of many of our full-time faculty members, and we'll have an opportunity at the end for you to meet us individually. But what I wanted to point out is that you can see our faculty are an interdisciplinary mix of backgrounds. If you just look through our training, you'll see mechanical, biomedical, bioengineering, electrical, computer science, physiology, chemical, and materials engineering. And if you think about it, this is a really good reflection on the types of skills and knowledge our students develop in this program. You're really a systems level thinker where you integrate all of this different knowledge together from different fields into biomedical products. And this is really an advantage for our Bmed students, being able to understand the connection and an integration of all of these different areas. Finally, I did want to point out we have some awesome staff members who help keep our department running, and it's great. We're like one big family here. Okay, so I can talk on and on and on, but I just wanted to show you one resource that, let's see. So here's the URL is pretty easy. If you want to access our website, it's bmed.calpoly.edu. You can also just Google Bmed or Biomedical Engineering Cal Poly, and this will pop up. But I wanted to just point out this is a great resource for you to learn more about our department. So if you go to our website, just two things I wanted to highlight. So one, go to the main website, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that as with COVID, we are offering a lot of things virtually. So if you want to set up an appointment to, for example, meet with myself, you can click on the link to schedule a virtual appointment, talk to me. If you have general inquiries, you can click on each of these buttons. If there's specific faculty and staff you want to talk to, you can click on the directory and get in touch with them. And now for you, if you go to Prospective Students, what I do want to highlight is, you can learn about our program, undergrad, grad, hear from our students, but there's this link at the bottom for the Bmed Open House. So on there, you will see cool pictures of different activities that our students are doing. You'll see, we'll scroll through the open house, kind of information really, or we'll get past my picture very quickly. But there's these 3 areas at the bottom. So if you want to hear more from our students, there's several videos talking about projects they've worked on. If you want a tour of our labs, click on there. And finally, if you want to hear from our faculty and lecturers, if you click on there, it'll take you to our YouTube channel, which has short little snippets, maybe 1 to 3 minute videos from each one of our faculty describing themselves and the classes that they teach and the research that they do. So this is just a great resource. If you haven't already, please go there and kind of scroll through and learn more about us that way too. Okay, so now I'm a little ahead of schedule, so I will have a chance for a couple questions. But as we transition to the next section, I just want to remind you, don't forget to put your questions in the chat section of Zoom. And we may not be able to get to all the questions during these different sections. However, we'll have time at the end of this event to answer any additional questions that you have. And then you can have some smaller group time with some of our faculty that makes it a little easier. One thing I did want to address, because this seems to be a pretty common question, is what do we anticipate in the fall in terms of being in person? So right now, the university as a whole, we are planning to be in person in the fall. The way things are trending and some of the advice that's coming out, that we are anticipating not having to have 6 feet of social distance, and that we can have people in our lectures and our labs. That could always change if things across the nation change very quickly. But at this point, we are planning to have all of our courses in person, as long as the guidance allows us to do that. And so the hands-on aspects of our university are so awesome and so an important culture of what we have here. So being able to do that in person is extremely important to us. So I did want to just address that. And if anyone has any quick question, I will, if not, let's see.
We have one question in the chat box. Lily, is it difficult to switch into the Bmed major? So perhaps maybe not everybody here is already in, but they want to switch in.
Okay, just a quick note about that. So within the College Engineering, if you go to Engineering Student Services, there's a whole section on there on how to change your major. So if you're going to change into the Bmed major, you do have to have met the requirements for the Bmed major in order to transfer, meaning that you would have met the admissions requirements in order to get in. But changing majors within the College of Engineering is pretty straightforward. So you'll have an agreement that you individualized change of major agreement, where they'll work with you, that you'll pick certain classes within the major that you have to take and do well in before you can transfer in. But thank you, Ben, for putting the link into the chat. If you click on that, it'll go through everything that's necessary in order to change your major. And I want to put a plug out there for our Engineering Advising Center. They are awesome. That students, regularly set up appointments with them to get information about, classes, about scheduling, about life, about just about anything. And, we've done surveys to see how asking about different aspects, and virtually everyone who has an experience with the Engineering Advising Center has an absolute great experience with them. Okay, so I know that probably there will be more questions about curriculum, so I want to make sure we have a little bit more time for that. So I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Kristin Cardinal, who is one of our awesome faculty members and also the associate chair of the department. She will be discussing our curriculum as well as answering questions you might have. So Kristin, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, and welcome everyone. I'm going to pretty quickly go through just a few slides on the curriculum. It's something that I know some of you have probably already looked at and that we could spend a very long time on it, but I'll just give some nuts and bolts intro and then we can have questions. We can talk about it in breakout rooms. I also am very fortunate in getting to teach Bmed 101, which is your first seminar when you start at Cal Poly in the fall, where we spend a lot more time on this. So today is really just meant to be an overview as you're deciding where you're going to go and picking your school and things like that. So this is the short version of the curriculum and concentrations within our major. And I'll point out again, because the question was raised, the Bmed curriculum, we have a lot of the same core engineering coursework in our first couple years that the other engineering disciplines do too. And what that means is if you come into Bmed, but then you want to switch out, or if you're in a different engineering major, you want to switch in, the first couple of years actually look pretty similar. So I'm just going to walk you through that. In the first couple of years, you do a number of what we call support courses. And again, this is all online. This is just for a few talking points here. This is a lot of the foundation of your education as an engineer and specifically as a biomedical engineer. And you can see this is where you do a lot of your math, your chemistry, your physics. You have some initial biology classes. You also take some of the foundational support through mechanical engineering, statics, dynamics, thermo. Some students do AP out of some of these courses. We get that question a lot. So if you take AP Bio or you take some AP Calculus classes, you may have already met the requirements for some of these by the time you get here. But in your first couple of years, you are doing a lot of this type of coursework, which is your foundation of engineering. The other thing that you're doing in your first couple of years, but actually sparse throughout, is your general education courses. This is how we try to educate well-rounded engineers. This just lists some of the requirements, and the catalog is shifting over, so yours might look a little bit different. But I'll point out that with your general education classes, these are offered on campus. We have great versions at Cal Poly that you can take of these courses. Some of our students, especially in engineering, also choose to do some of these abroad if they're looking for an abroad experience. There's also online courses outside of the pandemic. Some of these students will do through different online versions, but quite a bit of flexibility here. And then where it gets, I think, most interesting in terms of our specific curriculum is when you get into your major courses. And this just lists them here. And again, we won't spend a lot of time talking about them course by course today, but I'll just point out that the major courses, all of your Bmed prefix courses, are really still fundamental engineering courses, but they've got the biomedical focus and they're taught by our faculty. So this is where you really get to know the Bmed faculty. There's still quite a bit of breadth. So you can see you're still doing, materials, electrical and instrumentation types of content, physiology, mechanics, but you're doing it in the context of the body. And this is where you get to really see all the cool ways that engineering applies in the body. This is what makes it a Bmed a Bmed. And this is primarily in your junior and senior year, which is tough because everyone's super antsy to get right into all the Bmed stuff, but you really do need some of the core engineering foundation first. So primarily in your third and fourth year, you really get into these different courses. There are a few, like I said, seminars, and then a hands-on design course and a measurement and analysis course, Bmed 310, that you'll take earlier. But these are where you really get that hands-on experience. So labs, and more labs. We have labs associated with almost everything here, minus the seminars. So this is where the learn by doing comes in. And then in addition to that breadth of being a biomedical engineer, you also are going to focus a little bit in a certain area. And this little line here that is your kind of concentration-based units, that's where our Bmeds take that breadth of biomedical engineering and actually focus in a particular discipline. And I think that's really important in Bmed, that you have some area that you've sort of chosen to focus in, because it is a really broad field. So this just broadly lists the options. We have 2 formal concentrations that students can choose. We have a mechanical design concentration, and we have a bioinstrumentation concentration. And then this third option, we call it the general curriculum, but I like calling it the create your own focus, because you get to kind of choose which classes you take in your electives to focus on whatever your area is going to be. Some students choose a biomaterials focus, some do their pre-med curriculum here. I'll have one extra slide here on this in just a moment. And I just, for the sake of listing it, just wanted to give a quick taste of, if you pick mechanical design concentration, then your additional 30-ish units are focused on more mechanical design related courses, as compared with bioinstrumentation, where you take those extra 30-ish units in more electrical engineering types of courses. And then the third option was the general curriculum. And we have a whole list of courses that you can kind of choose from to put together your specific focus. This is all on the website. And so you take a certain number of technical electives and a certain number of support electives to kind of craft what you want your focus to be. As I briefly already mentioned, some students will pick biomaterials, some will focus more on biomechanics, and we have some great curriculum around micro and nanosystems and those technologies. Some students will do pre-med here if they're really wanting to go to med school. Bmed's a great foundation for that. We're working right now on a new kind of focus for students in the cell and tissue manufacturing space. And we've got options related to more regulatory or quality sides of things where you can tailor your coursework around that. The last couple slides, just so you know that it exists. This was from the last catalog cycle, but we always have these flow charts that students can look at. So you can see how you can do all of this in 4 years. I know that's important for some people. So you can see how it maps out in 4 years. And if you cross some of these off because of AP units, then it actually gives you a little more breathing room. If you do some things over the summer, that takes some of the strain off. But you can see with, 5 classes at most in some quarters and 4 classes in other quarters, this is a doable 4-year curriculum. And we have these flowcharts for the general path, as well as the mechanical design concentration and the instrumentation concentration. So that is the quick overview. I was trying to keep it to 5 minutes or so, and I would love to take some questions. I'll stop sharing so we can see a little bit if we want to see any faces, and then I can go back to the slides if we want.
There's a couple of questions in the chat window.
Yes, so what opportunities are there for undergrads to get experience in rehabilitation, engineering, and prosthetic design? Great question, Flynn. We actually have some really great opportunities there. Dr. Laiho, do you want to talk about the Empower group? Because that's probably the best option for that.
Yeah, so there's 2 kind of main things that you could do. From the curriculum standpoint, there are, within our department, there are not specific classes that address rehabilitation, engineering, or prosthetic design. Like you'll have general design classes and you'll focus in different areas, but not one that specifically addresses those. However, as a technical elective, in mechanical engineering, there is a course that focuses on rehabilitation engineering that is an option. Now, Dr. Cardinal was referring to the Empower Association. So that is actually a student association or club and the club environment at Cal Poly is huge. That's a big part of also what makes Cal Poly very unique, because there is a club for just about anything and everything that you want to do. Now, specifically for the Empower Association, it used to be named the Quality of Life Plus Association, and then they morphed the name to kind of merge more of the things that they're working on. So as this part of this club, they work on creating assistive technologies for wounded veterans, for people with disabilities, for people in the community. So it's not, so it's kind of pretty much everyone that they are able to create devices for. A lot of times they do focus on prosthetics. And so there are design opportunities in the club. They have individual projects, each quarter, but they also have year-long projects that you can work on. And then, and so these are definitely ways to get your hands dirty, like early on in your career, rather than waiting for like your junior or senior year. So it's pretty big. I think when we were in person, there were probably about 120 to 150 students who were involved with the club. So that's one way that you can get involved with there.
There's a few other questions here. So, Ada, thanks for the addition on. There are these other clubs as well. Do many students take advantage of internships or co-ops? Yes, absolutely. A lot of our students do 3-month internships over the summer with a variety of medical device companies or biotech companies. We have a lot of the big device companies like Medtronic and Abbott and Edwards Life Sciences and Boston Scientific and Stryker intuitive, that come specifically to Cal Poly to recruit. And in some cases, Bmed is the preferred degree. In some cases, they're recruiting, Bmeds or Mes or EEs. So yes, a lot of our students do 3-month internships, and then co-ops, we call co-ops these more 6-month experiences. And we have a number of students that do those too. We don't require that. Students choose if they want to do that or not. But I don't know, Dr. Laho, if you know what a large percentage of our students do either internships or co-ops during their time with us.
I don't know the exact numbers, but yes, I'll agree too, because by senior year for our senior design courses, oftentimes students submit their resume, well, they do submit their resumes as we pair them up with their senior projects. And from looking at their resumes, it's clear that students definitely take advantage of those internship and co-op opportunities.
And if you miss a quarter of classes to go do a co-op, you can make up for that with loading up other quarters during summer on another end, or some students will take 4 1/4, and the co-op experience is really, really worthwhile. Is there a Biomed club? Yes, and I think with the students, you'll be able to hear a little bit more about that. But we have a Biomedical Engineering Society, BMES, student club that any BMed can be involved with. We encourage our first years to get involved right away. And it's a chance to hear from industry folks and alumni and to talk about registering for classes and all the things that BMEDs have to do. There's also a really outstanding Society of Women Engineers. We have a Med Design Club that's excellent. And in all of those, you can get involved in your very first year. There's no requirements other than to show up and be a part of it. You can declare your concentration at a variety of different times. I think you have to declare it by the end of your second year. We encourage students not to declare it too soon. So don't feel like you need to declare in your first quarter, although you could, but there's really no need to do that. You want to have a chance to get settled in and hear different things and see different things and learn different things before you declare it. And then between then and kind of the end of your second year, as you're in classes and a part of clubs, you can declare it. It's really easy. You send an email to declare it. It's a really easy process. And then if you don't, then you're in the general curriculum, then you can kind of create your own and you don't have to officially declare what that's going to be. But there's a range of when people can declare the concentration. And if you're doing the blended program, which many of you are probably familiar with, if you're not, our blended program is a way of relatively efficiently doing a master's along with the end of your bachelor's. So after your approximately 4-year bachelor's degree, you can do an approximately year to year and a half extra and get your master's degree. The curriculum doesn't look really any different on the undergrad side, but you can double count 8 of your units towards your graduate degree. And so that's where some of the efficiency comes in. And some of what you focus on in your undergrad, you may continue into your master's degree, but it doesn't really change what you do as an undergrad too much. The concentration charts are available online. I sent a link to those in the chat box. You can click on that and you can see the general curriculum, and then you can click on the instrumentation or mechanical design ones. A foreign language minor, or any minor really for that matter, we get this question a lot. Yes, you can have a minor. And yes, we have students do all sorts of minors. We have students that do more technically tied in minors like a bio minor or a computer science minor. And we have students that have done business minors. We've had students that have done psychology minors or Spanish minors. In all those cases, I encourage students to think about why they're doing it. So I don't think you necessarily have to feel like you have to have a minor. I have a lot of students that ask, should I get a bio minor to make me a stronger BMed in bio? I don't think that's necessary. I think you get enough bio as a BMed student and you can do clubs and research. So I don't think you have to have a minor, but can you do one? Absolutely. And you'd have to work with the other department. So whatever the department is that offers the minor, to know what their requirements are and to meet those units or courses. Sometimes you can take advantage of, like, for example, if you're doing a biotech minor, there's a few things that might actually count also as your BMed support electives. So there are some ways that you can make it more efficient, and we can work with you on that. For a foreign language minor, there's probably not going to be a lot of overlap there, but you can absolutely do it. One of my recent students did a Spanish minor because they had spoken Spanish and wanted to learn more and have that on their resume, and they just took a few extra classes to do so. Other universities have bioengineering and biomedical engineering. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, Julia. I have a couple slides on this in Bmed 101 because that's a confusing point for people of bioengineering versus biomedical engineering. I like to think about bioengineering as kind of like the bigger umbrella term. So bioengineering encompasses really all sorts of engineering that applies to biological systems. And that could be medical, and that could be the human body, but it also could be bacteria and bioremediation, or other microorganisms, any plants, animals, anything biological that you apply engineering to, I think falls under the umbrella of bioengineering. So it's more broad. Biomedical engineering is the specific focus of engineering in the medical field. And our department is very focused on biomedical engineering. And we're preparing you for that more medical device, medical technology, healthcare related field. So I'd say it's a subset. I don't know, do other faculty want to chime in on that one? Because I love that discussion.
No, Kristin, I think you totally hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I would say too.
Sierra said, is it common to take on a minor? So I don't know. I would say it's not common in that I wouldn't say a majority of our students do it, but I can think of a number of students that have and do, and it's doable, but I would say the majority probably don't. Our students tend to spend a little more time thinking about what their concentration is going to be, what within Bmed they're going to focus their support and tech electives on. But Sierra, you can totally do one, and we could talk about pros and cons and logistics. How many students from BME go to medical school? That's also a really interesting question, because I get to teach 101. I always ask what people think they're going to do when they come in, and it really fluctuates. And we've had a couple instances where a lot of our incoming class thinks they're going to go to medical school, or that's what they're kind of aiming for. This last year in the fall, I think out of 100 incoming freshmen, I had maybe 5 that said they wanted to go to med school. So it was by far the lowest amount. But regardless of what people come in thinking they're going to do, it's definitely possible to go to med school. But I would say in a graduating class of 90-ish Bmed students, maybe 4 or 5 are going to med school. Not because they can't. I mean, they totally could, but because there's a lot of other really cool jobs that you can get right out of your bachelor's or master's degree. A really popular role with a lot of our students is a clinical engineering type of role, where you work for a medical device company, but you're working with clinicians in the operating room, helping them learn how to use the technology or actually implement the technology, programming things. Different companies call it different things, but a lot of our students find that they can be in that clinical setting doing clinical things as a biomedical engineer and not go the whole med school path. So can you? Yes, our students have gotten into the top med schools, and getting in is not necessarily the problem. It's that students find other things that they decide to do that can engage them in that same way. Can you take a couple extra classes to have an emphasis instead of a focus? Yes, you can. Dr. Liho, can you help me address this one? That I think they're actually a little bit more strict on. You have to have you can't take a certain number of classes that just don't count for things. So you have to have.
Yes, yeah, I think the university wants to make sure that you make progress towards your degree. So they don't want you to take an excess number of classes that have nothing to do with your degree. However, with our technical electives and our support electives that Dr. Cardinal mentioned, you can strategically choose courses that kind of fit into those electives that also kind of further your education. And then on top of that, as Dr. Cardinal mentioned, there's the blended program. So you also get the opportunity. It's not quite as strict with the courses that you can take, so you can continue to grow your courses that you take in that option.
I see Anushka's question. I'll get back to that in a second. How many students from BME go on to get a PhD or master's? A good portion do master's degrees, and many of them stay with us and do it in that blended program. And then we have a handful that go off to other institutions to do master's degrees. PhDs, probably similar to med school. In any given year, out of 90 or so graduates, we might have a handful, 5 or 6, that are going to go get a PhD. They're very competitive. They've got lots of great experience. They've often done research with us, and they go off and do great in their PhD programs. But again, so much of our focus is on preparing industry-ready, job-ready, career-ready people. A lot of our students, when they finish their degree, they go and they get a job and they start working. I'm going to bounce back here to the where do pre-med students go for community service? Jaden, are you pre-med?
I am.
I'm gonna let you take that one.
Yeah, I would say there's a wide range of stuff. I know there's a lot of different volunteer clubs specifically, but even outside of that, just in SLO and in the community, there's kind of unlimited opportunities because there still is a community outside of the students. So at least personally, like I've been volunteering at a homeless shelter that's about 30 minutes away. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for community service.
I think
Awesome. And this is, oh,
yeah,
sorry, go on, Kristin.
So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Laiho to start to introduce our students, and we'll keep asking questions. Great questions in the chat box. Thanks everyone for being so engaged and getting the information that you need. So Dr. Laiho, go.
Okay, well, that was a great segue into our next section. So now you have the opportunity to meet 5 of our current students in our department. So we're gonna start, and there's no real agenda for this portion. What we are going to do is we're gonna start off with each of the panelists introducing themselves and then just opening it up to questions from the audience. So I can always ask questions too if it gets a little quiet, but it's always nice to hear directly from you. So feel free to throw your hardest questions at them, ask them what life is like here, or about the classes, or secretly what they think about us. And so I'll let you all introduce yourselves. Maybe if it's easiest, if you start by, we'll say first name, alphabetical order.
I guess that's me. Hello, everyone. My name is Ada Tadeo. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm from Ventura, California, so staying local within the state. I'm a first-generation college student, so asking questions about that, and I am a 4th-year biomedical engineering student at Cal Poly. I have just the general concentration. On campus, I'm involved with the Microcirculation and Vascular Regeneration Lab with Dr. Trevor Cardinal, as well as the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers Club on campus. And currently I'm working at Edwards Life Sciences for a co-op. So that's a little bit about me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Mccullough. I'm a 3rd-year biomedical engineering student. I'm originally from Park City, Utah, so I understand for all the out-of-state students. I am involved in campus in Dr. Kristin Cardinal's tissue engineering lab, as well as I'm on a Meditech project. The Meditech projects are industry-sponsored projects that are all biomedical related. They come in for 9 months, so you start at the beginning of the school year and to the end, and they have a wide range. So like you can join as a 1st year, I think, and all the way through your 4th year as well. I'm also in a sorority on campus, so I know a little bit about the Greek life community. And yeah, I love being a Bmed, so if you have any questions. I also intend to go into a PhD program eventually, but I'm planning on doing the blended masters in the meantime. So if anyone has any questions about that too.
I think I'm next.
Oh, I'm next to you. Hi, everyone. My name's Harrison Oon. I'm originally from Issaquah, Washington, and that's just outside of Seattle. I'm a 1st-year biomedical engineering student. So if you have any questions about what life is like in the 1st-year dorms or anything most recently, you can let me know about that. And then for things that I'm involved with on campus, I recently joined Dr. Kristin Cardinal's tissue engineering lab with Alyssa. And then I'm also involved with the Cal Poly Empower Student Association that Dr. Laiho touched on. So if you have any questions about that, you can let me know, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Okay, now I think it's me. I'm Jaden. My pronouns are he, him. I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm a 4th-year biomedical engineer with a general concentration. And then some things that I'm involved with on campus. I'm also in the Microcirculation and Vascular Regeneration Lab. That's Dr. Trevor Cardinal's lab. And then I'm also one of the co-presidents of the Biomedical Engineering Society. So if you have questions about either of those, I'm also pre-med and I'll be applying to med school in a couple months. So if you have any questions about that or what it takes and how to kind of make that work in Bmed, I can definitely answer those. And then I've also been working part-time for like my past year or so. So if you have questions about kind of balancing that with classes, I can also help with that.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer. I am from Ridgecrest, California, which is in the desert area. I'm a current Bmed master's student with a focus in regenerative medicine. And so this is more stem cell research and tissue engineering area inside of things. On campus, I completed research in Dr. Liho's bioimaging lab. I was also an officer in Society of Women Engineers, Biomedical Engineering Society, and Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Happy to answer your questions.
Okay, so feel free to throw some questions in the chat for our awesome students. In the meantime, to warm you up a little bit, I know that you all are involved in a lot of different activities. So how did you get started in those activities? How did you get involved?
I can start with mine. So as a first year, I remember hearing a lot of things saying that there's a lot of opportunities to get involved. So I followed a lot of the Instagram pages at first, and then those Instagram pages led to email lists, and then I just picked and chose which ones were most interesting to me. So then I ended up joining the Empower Association at first, and then I heard from, or in my first biomedical engineering specific class from Dr. Kristin Cardinal. That's how I heard about her lab, and then that's how I got involved with that aspect of it. And that's my experience on it.
I would say a similar answer, that freshman year, you're immediately bombarded with all these different opportunities and clubs and organizations to get involved with. So you really just need to filter through which ones are most interesting to you. And for me, I learned about the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers Club. I joined that immediately, made a great connection of people with similar backgrounds for me, with the same, academic goals. And then for the research lab, it was also kind of just an introduction that we learned about in one of the early Bmed major courses. And I just went to office hours and wanted to learn more about it, ask how I could get involved, and eventually made my way onto the team.
I think I also had a very similar experience. I started off my freshman year and kind of dove into everything. I wanted to get to an exposure to every single club there was out there. So I went to all the meetings and kind of worked through what I really felt like I wanted to do. And then in Dr. Trevor Cardinal's Bmed 102 course, he really gave us the advice to just kind of make time for what you want to do and to go out and pursue everything you want to do, especially within Cal Poly community. There's so many opportunities. So I went and shadowed Dr. Kristin Cardinal's research lab because I was very interested in the tissue side of biomedical engineering. And that's kind of where I got started in all of the work I'm currently doing.
Sorry, I saw you were about to answer. I do see there's some questions in the chat, so we'll kind of move on to those first, and then we can come back to some of the different activities. So the first question is, how difficult is it to find internships? Don't all jump at once.
I can try and take a stab at it. My freshman year, I went to the career fair. It's a very overwhelming place for your first go around. And it was just a really good opportunity to get a resume written up and go and talk to people. I think it's pretty difficult to get an internship your freshman year, but there's lots of opportunities to go. So if you go to multiple career fairs, there's also on-campus opportunities. I did summer research with the summer undergraduate research program my summer after my freshman year, and that was definitely a good way of kickstarting the research I was doing. And then I think for second and third years, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. So there's a lot of great engineering companies that go to the career fairs. And if you just pursue what you're interested in, you can also apply on like LinkedIn and Handshake to kind of, if there's companies that aren't coming to their career fair, to get involved. But I think a lot of people, at least probably can, it's difficult to get the internships because they're really competitive, but if you definitely are working really hard and getting involved on campus, you should be able to get one, I think.
I think kind of touching on what Alyssa was saying was, I think, a good way to try and stand out, especially your earlier years, is to be able to get involved in those clubs or those projects or those research groups, because that's kind of what helps set you apart from the other students who essentially are taking the same classes. And so I think for internships, that's definitely a good thing to try to get on top of.
Next question is for you, Jaden. So how did you set up your undergrad experience to be aimed towards pre-med?
Yeah, so for specifically within biomedical engineering, so I obviously went the general concentration, so I was able to work a lot of my classes within that were pre-med classes that also counted for the degree. So like pretty much most of your early chem classes, all of your physics classes, all of your math classes, a couple of your bio classes are already, you're going to take those whether you're wanting to do pre-med or not. And then outside of that, there's a lot of different ways where the extra classes that you might have to take, like biochem or organic chemistry, those do end up counting for support electives. So you only really end up taking maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 extra classes that don't get counted. I'd say at most 2 or 3. So as far as the curriculum wise, it's not that much extra. You just kind of tailor it a little bit more towards the pre-med stuff. And then there's kind of a lot of different aspects with the whole applying to med school. So I'd say some of the other big ones are getting involved in research or projects that you find interesting. I think that's the biggest thing, is it doesn't necessarily have to be bio and it doesn't have to be anything that's medicine, but getting into projects that you're interested in and you can kind of show your passion for is what I would say is kind of important. And then a couple different resources that I went for that kind of helped me a lot are in our department. We have Dr. Hazelwood, who is like the pre-med advisor for Bmed students. And so early on, I met with him and he kind of helped me lay out a lot of my classes for the next 4 years. So I felt a little better about making sure that I could fit everything. And then in the College of Science and Math, they have a lot of pre-health advising. So they have peer advisors where you can go and just drop in at any time and just ask fellow students like any questions you have. And I found that super, super helpful, because sometimes it's just a quick little question and you don't feel like you need to set up a long meeting. So that was kind of how I got most of it. And then there's a lot of different resources, and there's like pre-med clubs, there's a couple different ones. And so they definitely help with a lot of that information.
Awesome. Next question is, how do you get involved with undergrad research labs? Is it an application process?
I can answer this question. So I started doing research my freshman year. And for me, I went into the professor's office hours after looking at the different Bmed labs. And I had a conversation and let them know that I was very interested in learning more. And I started shadowing in that lab, the upperclassmen. And then I became more hands-on and learned the different techniques. So I think the Bmed professors here are very encouraging, and they want you to reach out to them, talk to them, and learn more. For me, there wasn't an application process per se, but yeah, a very great experience.
Or maintain a social life being in BME?
I can answer that one. I would say it's not very difficult. As you can see from my pictures, I like to think I'm very social, but yeah, but back to the question, like for example, I'm involved, or I enjoy playing soccer and rock climbing. So I still have time to do that multiple times a week. Living on campus, I'd say, is a big thing to help facilitate being very social, because I made a lot of friends with the people that are living around me. And just being in a new environment, it's important to attempt to put yourself out there and make yourself want to try new things. So I guess to sum it up, I found it very manageable to have a social life, try new activities, maintain activities that I still enjoy while still keeping up with my education.
And Harrison, you were able to do all that as a first year, even during COVID. So props to you for still getting out there safely, of course. Jennifer, since you're our most experienced, why don't you take a stab at that question too?
Right, so there's definitely time to have a social life and to do fun things in addition to classes. I would say for me, the clubs that I joined had like a mentorship program where you did fun socials with your mentor that you were paired with. For example, Society of Women Engineers and Biomedical Engineering Society. For me, on my free time, I really like to go to the gym and the beach and also hiking. And I think the San Luis Obispo area is great for that. Yeah, if you make the time for it and prioritize your work, that's what I recommend.
Now, Harrison, the next question is for you. Can you tell us more about what you do in Empower?
Yeah, so Empower, there's different varieties of levels of involvement that you can be part of. So for example, there's one part of the club that's it's a quarter-long project, so you can work. They give us prompts about, say, how to solve like a medical device issue, and then we just kind of project our ideas in meeting groups to work on that. So the one that I'm most involved in, it's called a formal design project. So that's a year-long one that so it works with actual people in the local area. And for example, the person that my group is working to help is a woman that's suffering from a back condition. So the project that we're doing is working to build a customized back brace to help support her in her daily life. And then there's also other things that Empower provides. I think it's called LEAP now, but it's I think it's regards a like a cyber skeleton or something like that. I don't know all the details about it, but I know that there's different levels of involvement. So you can go like the year-long involvement to take part in an engineering project. There's a quarter-long project that you can also be a part of, and then they also have certain seminars that teach you about more like prosthetics and other things you can do regarding more like the engineering side of biomedical engineering.
Thank you. Okay, so next question. I came from a biology background, but didn't prepare specifically for engineering. How difficult is my first year likely to be, and what are some general tips for success?
I could take this one. I had a similar experience. My high school didn't have any like engineering courses that I could take to prepare for a college major in engineering. So I was kind of just coming in with the biology, the physiology, and the like AP calculus classes. And I would say generally your first year at Cal Poly is, like Kristin Cardinal mentioned earlier, the support courses that you're going to take. So if you're going to have like physics, calculus, and some biology courses. So it's kind of just like getting the groundwork for what you're going to prepare for eventually in engineering. But I would say the engineering courses are really just the next level of all those support courses. So if you're really enjoying your time there and you want like a greater challenge, that's the challenge you're going to get. So there's no really like preparation you need to have coming in. I think this university does a great job of kind of guiding you through that process, if that makes sense. But yeah.
And some general tips that I have are to not let yourself get too far behind and to attend office hours, because professors here are very welcoming and encouraging. I also use some study sessions for like physics and calculus classes, or there's also workshops that are available too.
So that's actually an excellent segue into the next question. I've heard about tutoring available on campus. Could someone expand on that? Is it common to go to tutoring or forming study groups? Could someone also expand on what it's like attending office hours?
I can go for this one. I'm actually a tutor at the campus tutoring center. For all of the biomedical engineering and previous coursework that you take from freshman through what I've taken so far. And that can be really useful for a lot of students to come in and just ask some questions, get help working through some problems, figuring out just some different concepts, and we can talk through that. So the tutoring is definitely really useful, and I think a lot of people don't know about it. I definitely didn't when I was a freshman and wish I did. So that's definitely a really cool thing that you actually already know about. In terms of like also getting help in classes, just like what Jennifer was just talking about, there's study sessions, which are, you just sign up, there's no units involved, you don't have to pay for them. It's like an hour a week. If you're an in-state student, you can do a writing, or not a writing workshop, a workshop. And that's kind of a similar idea that helps just make the different material more concrete. That one is, I think, a unit, so you actually have to show up and do the work, and it does go on your transcript. So that's something to just be aware of. And if you're out-of-state student, that does cost more money as well to do that. I think for most of my experience, I just made study groups with people in my classes, and I found as I went through, every quarter it felt like I knew a couple of people in the class, and we would form a little study group, or in the dorms even with like your learning and living communities. You can usually find people in your building that are in your classes. So that's also a really cool thing to be able to have freshman year. And then for office hours, I think this is probably the most valuable thing you can do for a class, is making sure you're going and talking to the professor and making sure you're understanding the concepts and working through problems. It's also really valuable just to hear what other students are asking, because sometimes a question they're asking is something you hadn't even thought about. So that's been a really cool way to also further your understanding.
Okay, next question. How many students are typically in your first year classes? And how about upper level Bmed classes?
I can answer the first year one. So for example, for my chemistry classes, there's at least online right now, there's 2 sections of it. So it's a lecture webinar. So that's everyone that takes chemistry at that same time is on the webinar. So I don't know exactly the number of people that are in the class, but then we also split up into, it's called a chemistry learning community. So that'd be the lab portion of the class. So that one has around 30 to 40 people in that one for me.
Yeah, I'd say it kind of depends on what the class is. So your first year classes, like your chem, your physics, that pretty much all engineers take, they're going to be a little bit bigger. But then when you get into the BMed ones, I'd say they're around 30. So it's a much like smaller community, so you can interact with professors more.
And I'll just chime in there real fast. For the number of classes in the Bmed labs, oftentimes we are capped at 24. Students in the lab. There's some that may be computer labs that allow more students in, but for some of our more hands-on classes, for our hands-on classes like biomaterials and biomechanics, it is 24 people in the lab. Same for physiology. Okay, next question. Is it helpful living on campus both your freshman and sophomore years as a Bmed major? Are any of you in an engineering living learning community?
So for me, I found that, at least in my situation, living on campus was really beneficial to my enjoyment of college, at least, because I think being in a new environment, being more independent really forced me to work on time management and everything. And I'd say my experience with living on campus has been a good one. And then to answer the second part of the engineering living learning community, I think this past year, I didn't sign up for the engineering community, but then all the people that live around me are also engineers. And then I remember when I heard about like all my people around me that lived in engineers, I remember thinking of the stereotype of antisocial, not really fun. I was a little worried, but I don't know. I think engineers are pretty cool. Like all these professors and students, I think, are pretty cool. So I think living around other engineers was also nice because we were all, again, like Jane said, we all take the same prerequisite courses like chemistry, physics, and math, so we can assist each other, learn and tutor each other in that scenario also. So I think that was, I found it very helpful for me to be around other engineers.
Yeah, I would add to living on campus, and sorry for the dog barking in the background. I don't know if you all hear that, but I think it's really convenient because you're living so close to the campus itself as well as other students surrounding you. So you could easily just send a text like, let's meet at the University Union and talk about this class or talk about plans for the future. Or you could easily just go to your academic advising centers, make appointments with your counselors, and that's also just a walk away instead of having to commute and find parking. And it's just really convenient that first couple of years that you're in the immediate area where all these resources are available, as well as like friendships that you make with, you know, the people that you're going to be continuing this like 4-year journey with. So it's great to be with them those first couple of years.
Another question just popped up. Did you find it hard to adjust the quarter system from semesters?
I can take this one. Yeah, my high school was semesters, so coming here was quarters. I would say it's your first quarter here, it's a bit of an adjustment, but you're kind of like the biggest thing is just to try and stay on top of it. And I would say also your first quarter and your first kind of classes that you're taking, the professors are aware of that. And so they're not going to be as intense about it. And so I didn't find my first quarter to be super overwhelming in that sense. I think it was really nice to have the 10 weeks because it's not this huge, long, drawn out thing. So it was almost sometimes easier to stay on top of things because you knew that at least the end was closer in sight.
Okay, as we wrap up, is there any last bit of advice or information that any of our panel would like to share with the students that maybe we missed or the question wasn't asked?
I think the only thing I'd add is I think there was a question about attending office hours. I don't know what the future will look like in terms of that with the COVID restrictions and everything, but at least this year office hours involved looking on the professor's website, clicking a Zoom link and chatting with them on Zoom, which was definitely an adjustment, but I think it was definitely beneficial to get to know the professors on a deeper level, even though I have yet to meet Dr. Kristin Cardinal in person.
But I feel like I know you so well, Harrison.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I would definitely advise and highly encourage is getting involved with those academic clubs. So like I've mentioned, I'm involved in SHIP. There's also like NSBE, Color Coded, WISH, SWE. There's so many different organizations that are really there to serve you as your like foundation and your strength and also like motivation throughout your academic career. And there's so many opportunities that you can get out of it. There's like volunteering, there's academic help and resources. So you could do like mock interviews, tutoring with your club, mentorship, like I think Jennifer mentioned, as well as, you know, there's leadership positions that you can, you know, acquire from being involved in those clubs. So that's definitely something to boost your resume. And then one great thing that I have recently gotten out of being a part of this, the club, like the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, was being able to present my research at a conference, which was really amazing. I got a lot of, you know, like opportunities to just showcase what I've been working on and just exposure to different organizations and other students or even representatives from companies or other universities. And it was just like a great, you know, opportunity and an experience. So I highly encourage you all to, you know, look into things like that, and it'll really, I think, advance your time here at Cal Poly.
I just want to add to enjoy your college experience because time flies by very quickly, faster than you would expect as I'm graduating this June. But yeah, definitely leverage your opportunities and expand your network, both professionally and with your peers.
Hi there, my name is Rafael. I'm a fourth-year journalism transfer student with a minor in Spanish, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Thank you for watching the video. Please share any questions or comments you have down below in the comment section and go ahead and click here to subscribe. And to watch more videos, click here. If you want to sign up for a virtual visit or talk to any student or staff members, check out our website. Link in the description. Thank you for watching.